friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that. And what these videos are is just a time where I can give you updates on various things going on around here, some projects I have going on, lead you back to some old videos where I show you how to do stuff, or even maybe answer a few questions that have come in the past week. So let's get to the topics of today, starting off with the dehydrated soup. So I finally did a sampling of taking a jar of soup I put up in 2020, I think it was, some homemade chicken vegetable soup, and then just dehydrated on my silicone sheets like this in my Kasori. It was about 12 hours at 125 degrees, and then just put it in a jar. Now, some of this is gone. As you'll see in this picture here, it was a little more full because yesterday I decided to go ahead and try a little bit and see what I think. So I took about 1/8 of a cup out, put it in a small pot with some water and heated it through, and everything rehydrated, and it was the corn, everything rehydrated. The funny thing is it will just look brown like this, but once it's rehydrated, you can see all the vegetable pieces, the carrots, the corn, and the potatoes. And it turned out really good. So this was, I mean, it was just a little more full, like I said, but it was a pint of soup that was reduced down to less than half a pint. When you go to add water, you would add, like if you're using that whole amount that you dehydrated and you wanted to make a whole pint, add a pint of water to it. Maybe cut that water back just a little bit shy of a pint. Or even less if you want to rehydrate it, taste it, and then if you want to add more water from there, that'd probably be a better idea rather than getting it too watered down. Because I didn't measure it out yesterday. I just put some in and put some water in, and it was just a little bit too, I had too much water. So the flavor was a little thin. But anyway, yeah, so start with a lesser amount of water, but it's really as simple as just going by, well, what did you start with? Same thing goes with I did some chicken bone broth. I usually don't dehydrate up my chicken bone broth. I usually just use it up right away. But I decided to do that this time because I didn't feel like making soup with my broth like I normally do. So I just decided to dehydrate it up, and this started off as 2 cups of broth that is now a half cup. So how would I get it to where it was before? I'd add about 2 cups of water, maybe slightly less. But it's better to start off with less and add more if you need it than to start off with too much and then you don't have any more broth to add more flavor to it. But yeah, it was definitely a success dehydrating that. So this would be great for taking camping, hiking, and whatnot. If you're wanting, especially hiking, anything where you want things that are lightweight, and or even in a bug out situation, I just pack it in Mylar instead. And then all you got to do is add some water to it. Preferably hot water if you can. But even if you had to drink, eat it cold, if you just put the water in, let it sit for a longer period of time, it will eventually rehydrate. And also, even if you're just storing it in your cupboards, it's going to take up far less room like this than jars of completed soup that, haven't been dehydrated. So while I still like to have jars of like chili that's just pretty much ready to eat right out of the jar, same thing with soup, I like the idea of taking a lot of that stuff and dehydrating it up so it takes up less space and is lighter in weight as well. And if I need to, I can take that out of the jars and put it into bags and then, stick it in a bag and go. So I really do like that. So I've been doing the same thing with a lot of my homemade chili as well and other types of cooked beans. Before I talk about these things, let me come back to this, because I do get questions where people are dehydrating broth or soups or other liquid products on their silicone, and they're like, they have a really hard time getting it off. I rarely have a hard time getting that off. Broth usually tends to be the hardest, but the first thing is, if you put the broth on there too thin, yes, once it dehydrates, it's going to be very, very thin. And the thinner it is, the harder it is to actually get off your silicone. But if it's too thick, then it can end up more like a leather rather than something that you can flake up easy enough. But with the soup and the chicken broth, it was, this last batch here, it was super easy. I had the thickness just right. And what I do is I first start off with just kind of crumpling the sides carefully, other it will go flying everywhere, and kind of, you know, crushing it up a little bit, and then pouring off whatever comes off on its own. And then I simply take a spatula, a metal spatula like this, stainless steel, and just scrape it. And most of it comes off very, very easily, as you can see in this picture right here. I should have thought of getting a video clip of it, but I didn't think to do that. But it works quite well to get most of it. But you'll still have stuff that, even if it's loose, it just kind of wants to stick. So you might have to keep working at it. But for the most part, that's the easiest way to get it off there. So making sure you don't put it on your tray too thinly, and then just using a metal spatula to scrape off whatever doesn't easily just come off when you crumple it up and then, you know, shake it into your jar. And then the next thing I want to talk about are the dehydrated eggs. So this question must have come from someone new to my channel who asked if I had a video on how to make egg powder. Well, I most certainly do, because dehydrating the excess eggs from my chickens is my favorite way to put up eggs. I used to freeze them, and that was good for about a year, but after that the flavor would turn nasty no matter what I froze them in. And I never was interested in the water, glass, or lime water method because the amount of space it takes up doing it that way. But dehydrating works great for so many things. I can use them in baking because I keep them raw when I'm dehydrating, so I can use them in making cookies, breads, pancakes. I can make scrambled eggs with them and much more. They work really great for that. So, and I did have somebody, Trish told me that she's actually successfully made mayonnaise with the eggs. So I need to try that one again. When I tried it, it didn't work, but she said she just let it soak overnight. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try that again at some point and see if I can get it to work for me. But, you know, I always have fresh eggs on hand I can use to make mayonnaise as well. So even if I can't get it to work like she did, there's always that. And then the next thing I want to remind people about is that last year I did a video on dehydrating apples, not just how to dehydrate them, but the many ways that you can use them. So along with the egg video, I'll be linking to the dehydrating apples video down below because of the various things that I talk about on how to use them. And yes, you can use them. Let's say you just are you got a pile of applesauce and you're like, man, I don't want to put up a lot of applesauce with my excess apples because I still have a lot of applesauce, apple butter, and whatever else. But dehydrating them not only takes up a little less space, but also gives you far more options that you can use them for. You can still use them to make applesauce. All you got to do is cook them really well in some water or juice, and then just blend them up once they're cooked until they're soft. And you can use them to make desserts such as apple pies and so much more. So don't forget to go check out that video. So if you're still getting the last of your apples in and you're trying to figure out what to do with them all, hopefully that will give you some ideas. If you've already got a bunch of apples dehydrated up, maybe that will give you some ideas of what else you can do with them. Because I have tons of jars of dried apples, not just from last year, but from prior years that I don't always remember to use them, but it's nice to have them when I don't have fresh apples coming in to use right away. And then another thing I did different was, I actually talk about this in a video that's going to be publishing in several weeks out, but I hadn't tried it yet, and I made my own version of a Polish sausage. Well, I do that in quotes because instead of making it like links, I just made it like a loose sausage that I can make it into whatever shape I wanted. Because a few years back, I did a video on a kielbasa cabbage bake, and it's a really easy thing that I came up with that you can make yourself. But since we completely cut out pork, I'm like, well, you know, in places I've seen beef kielbasa, I can't get it delivered here. So I'm like, I'll just make my own, just like I've done with the Italian sausage. So I made it very much the same way as the Italian sausage, just using different spices that I looked up online, and it turned out pretty good. And so I made the sausage cabbage bake, and no, I didn't get any pictures taken of it, but I simply just did it the same way I do with the Italian sausage soup, where I just take pieces and I kind of laid them in there in sort of little clumps. And then I also layered in the cabbage, potatoes, and onions and garlic in there, and then just kept doing it more in layers, and then just baked it until everything was cooked all the way through. But I was happy with the flavor. It turned out very much like you expect kielbasa to turn out like. So what I'm going to do is I did make my own adjustments to the recipes, looking up a couple of different ones. So in the description box down below, I'm going to paste the written recipe that I used, at least as far as the spices, and then, you know, just mixing it up. If you're interested, especially if you're looking for something like that, that is pork free. I like to, with such things, use a blend of ground turkey and either ground elk, ground venison, or ground beef. And in this case, I did use ground beef. And then the last couple of things I wanted to cover is that, well, I know Black Friday's coming up, and already a lot of places have started their Black Friday sales. And though I didn't see it to the date that I'm shooting this video, I do know that Nakano Knives is having a fall sale, at least as of today, for 20% off. But you can, I think, still get that 20% off simply by going through my link in the description box and then putting in the coupon code Rain Country. I think either one of those will give you 20% off. But if you wait and kind of keep checking it in, I know last year they had a 30% discount for Black Friday. So you might want to hold off a little bit and keep checking in. Maybe check in today, but check in later and see if they, you know, usually it's a bar at the top when you go to the website. There'll be a little black bar that will tell you what the sale is with the coupon code that you can use to get that percentage off. But if you've been interested in the Nakano knives, now remember, you do not have to have expensive Japanese knives to prepare your food. And I've done it for many, many years without any kind of fancy knives and been happy enough with what I've had. But I will say, especially the micarta, this one here, I absolutely love this knife. And I'm still thinking about, even though I do like my Mito series ones with the olive wood handle, these I do have to sharpen a lot more. They're less expensive, but they're very pretty. I love the handle, but I have never had to sharpen this one. So the higher price, you know, does mean it's a harder steel, and the less likely you're going to need to sharpen it, but sharpening is super easy anyway. Anyway, I'm very happy with them. I do still plan on doing a separate standalone video on those to give you an update after using them for over a year now and let you know. And I've added to it, and I've bought their steak knives and really, really love their steak knives, the best steak knives I've ever owned. And then I have 4 of their smaller paring knives, and I really like them. So anyway, I know some other followers have tried them and have been happy with them. And then I know that GreenStalk also, and I also have an affiliate link with them. If you've been considering getting a GreenStalk or two, you might want to check in and see what their Black Friday sale is, because I know they have one coming up. And if you'd like more information on either the Nakano knives, I'll link to my review video I did last year, as well as the more recent one I did on the GreenStalk, where I give an update on what, after a few years into having one, what my thoughts are on it. What I will say is I did mention that a lot of people had told me that Dollar Tree has a similar type setup, but when people came in and commented about that, they said, well, they're definitely much cheaper and they don't have the watering system the way the GreenStalk does. So they're not only cheaper in cost, they're just more cheaply made. The GreenStalks, by the way, are all made in the United States. So if I was ever to get another system like that, I decided I'm not going to go the cheap method. I would get the GreenStalk, another one. But you might want to watch my video where I give my update, because I really don't plan on buying another one, but I still am happy with the one I have. Oh, and then I almost forgot this one. I just want to remind everybody that we do still make and sell products, even though we don't have our Etsy store and haven't in well over a year. We closed that down for various reasons. I went into detail about that in a separate video, which I'll link to down below. I think in that video, I also talk about the products. And if I don't in that one, then I'll link to the one where I talk about the types of products we sell. No, I do not sell any of my homemade medicinal products. That's just a choice I made years ago that I just, unless I'm bartering with friends locally or just giving it as gifts to family and friends, no, I do not sell my homemade those things. But we do sell, Patrick's still making the chambers, the vacuum chambers for sealing those odd jars like pickle jars and green olive jars is my favorite one to use in those. And then we have the generators. I can't really tell you what kind, but if you email me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com, it'll become self-explanatory. But because this video is publishing on YouTube, it's something I am not allowed to talk about, but it's been one of our best sellers. Again, something else that Patrick makes. I also sell my garden seeds, my homemade skin cream. That's just basic face cream, hand cream, whatever, and a few other things. So if you'd like to learn more about that and how you can order, just again, email me. I'll send you out the full product list, which also gives instructions on how to order and the methods of payments that I accept. So anyway, that'll be it for my this and that for the week. Don't forget to check out the links I'll be putting in the description box down below, including the affiliate links that are always there, but I'll move them up to the top to make them easier to find. And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.